Hey guys, this is Addison Heimann, director of Hypochondriac and Touch Me. Are you ready for some tentacle-fucking? Because you are listening to the Art of Trash Cinema podcast. Oh yeah!
I spit on your grave. Truly.
You just take care of the justice, and I'll handle the revenge myself.
Who will win, the living or the living dead?
I had a mad impulse to throw you down on the lunar surface and commit interstellar perversion.
Her deadliest weapon is her body.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Art of Trash Cinema podcast, the Swiss podcast on art house and genre cinema. On our regular program in German, we explore art house and genre cinema with a special focus on the strange, the offbeat, and the unconventional corners of film culture. With our English language interviews, we do extend that curiosity to conversations with filmmakers whose work excites and challenges us. And this episode is no different. Recorded at NIFFF 2025, we sit down with filmmaker Addison Heimann, the director of Touch Me. We had the chance to watch this film at the festival before speaking with him, and it was one of our highlights of the festival. Our interest in Addison's work, however, goes back to his previous feature, Hypochondriac, a deeply personal queer horror film that impressed us with its emotional honesty, its well-crafted scares, and its beautifully shot sex scenes that felt both bold and universally aesthetic. It was one of those films that stayed with us after it was screened at NIFFF 2022, so when Touch Me premiered at NIFFF, we knew that we couldn't miss it. Addison himself is a filmmaker based in the US. Before turning to feature films, he studied acting and screenwriting and worked on shorts that often explored queer identity, mental health through a genre lens. And with Hypochondriac, which premiered in 2022, he established himself as an exciting new voice in horror, using the genre not just for scares, but as a way to tell deeply personal, resonant stories. And Touch Me continues that trajectory in an exploitation blend of Pinku, eiga, sci-fi, and psychosexual surrealism with his trademark mix of humor and emotional rawness, but most importantly, a genuinely personal and heartfelt film. Seeing this film with the festival audience was great, and talking to Addison afterwards only deepened our appreciation. So a big shout out to Addison for being so generous with his time. Thank you. He is a wonderfully down-to-earth person, which we were glad to discover further over a few beers even after this interview. So let's get right into it. Here's our conversation with Addison Heimann right after this clip.
Hi, I'm Joko Anwar, director of Impetigore, Gundala, and Satan Slaves, and you are listening to the Art or Trash Cinema podcast.
Hello, this is Lucas Rinka, director of Holy Shit, and you're listening to the Art or Trash Cinema podcast.
Hello guys, I'm Mathieu Thury, director of Neon, and you're listening to the Art of Trash Cinema podcast.
Hello, I'm John Evernall, director of Baskin, Housewife, and Sayara. You're listening to the Art or Trash Cinema podcast.
안녕하세요. 영화 악인전, The Gangster, The Cop, and The Devil, 감독 이원태입니다. You are listening to the Art Trash Cinema podcast.
I am CJ Fiery Obasi, director of Ojuju, co-director of Juju Stories and Mami Water, and you are listening to the Art or Trash Cinema Podcast.
Art of Trash Cinema Podcast を聞いている皆さん、I am 高橋三池です。ジャパニーズディレクターです。お酒も映画も大好きです。
Thank you very much. Perfect.
But he said that I like alcohol and.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, this is the Art or Trash Cinema Podcast, and we're with Addison Heimann. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's great. So we saw your film Hypochondriac at NIFFF. So we're here to see that, and we really liked it.
Yeah.
And to us, it was clear that this film was highly personal.
Yes.
And how do you move on from that to a film, to your second film, basically, which to us actually felt probably even more personal?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, I wrote Hypochondriac at about a very specific hard time in my life. And then I got to the end of it and I got through it and I was like, I'm healed. I did it. I won mental illness. It is something that I overcame. And then, no, that doesn't happen. So, the cycle continues. And I was really sad again, because I have obsessive compulsive disorder, which, wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But, essentially, I got hyper focused on certain aspects of bad thoughts and got super depressed. And while I was super depressed, I watched this movie called The Untamed, which is a Mexican horror film about a tentacle monster in a shack that fucks people and makes them feel euphoric. Yeah. And I was like, I want that so bad in my life. I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it. And so I was really, in the pandemic, I started learning Japanese because my roommate told me I couldn't do it. And I got really into Japanese cinema, from all decades, spanning from the 40s, like early Kurosawa to, modern, and modern, even just not even horror, but Hirokazu Koreeda and Ryusuke, Drive My Car and all those beautiful films. But I specifically became really interested in cinema of Pinku eiga, which is exploitation films of the 60s and 70s, right? And so I kind of took that idea of wanting to be fucked by an alien, and then took the stylistic approach from the 60s and 70s and became this kind of combination crazy movie all about the exploration of a friendship breakup with one of my best friends and and her mental illnesses. So that's kind of what came together. Yeah. It's very funny. It's very weird. Obviously, it's not as autobiographical because there's, tentacle sex and a hip hop dancing monster and, arms getting bitten off, heads getting decapitated with samurai swords, tentacle sex, all the things. But it's still very much a very personal film, which is really funny to
But I think that's also what people like it, right?
Yeah. Because, I could have made a tentacle sex movie that kind of just was funny and silly and whatever, but I don't make those types of movies. I don't I like those movies, but for me, I think the best thing about genre is its ability to talk about things through the side. You get around this kind of you can say more or explore weird things when it's a genre film. And so that's why I like telling genre film stories through the genre film lens.
Cool. So perfect, I think, follow-up to this, what you just said, that your main characters seem to pursue mental quietness, escape and healing. Do you think this can also, as a pursuit, become in itself an addiction?
Yes. I mean, that was the whole, so, with OCD, you have, that's what it is. The entire movie is a metaphor for addiction because Brian essentially represents heroin. It's a version of that, right? And so, heroin has a downside, a pretty bad downside, just like any drug, whether it be, MDMA or even marijuana or alcohol, so it's everything. And so, I think those, it's OCD and addiction are very interlinked because there's so few things that can quiet an OCD mind. And to quiet the OCD mind requires an incredible amount of work. Basically what you have to do is, like Joey does in the beginning, is expose yourself to your deepest traumas and basically listen to them or over and over and over again without engaging in your reassurance practices. So it's like deadening a nerve by deliberately making yourself anxious in like a controlled environment. And it's very difficult. So a lot of people don't want to do that because that's fucking awful. I've done it. It's awful, but it really helped. It's like the thing that helps us. So, you know, a lot of people with OCD turn to substances. And so, you know, and like in the movie, you know, the ear cleaning, that Joey does, that's one of my tics, you know? So so I put that in the movie, because it's real. People they're like, why the ear thing? I'm like, cause I do that. And I've gotten several bad ear infections because of that. No. Yeah, I know. But yeah, so, it definitely is an addiction and that's the entire exploration of the movie.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Very different question.
Please.
We noted both in Hypochondriac and also Touch Me
that
you have an absolute gift for creating very aesthetic sex scenes. What's your gift, or what's your secret that you have here?
I'm just really horny. No. You know, I think there's something interesting. You know, like there's like two types of sex scenes. There's like sex for sex and sex for story. And I think my favorite thing about cinema is the power to tell story through different lenses of the thing, you know, like making sex scenes essentially essential. So, you know, I also think that specifically amongst like, you know, cinema, with Hypochondriac specifically with the sex scene there, I just really wanted to show like an actual sex scene between two gay men because, you know, and people were like, my producer, or I think my casting director was like, do you need the ass eating? And I was like, I do need the ass eating. She's like, it's going to alienate people. And I'm like, it's what gay people do. I'm not going to hide this, you know? And obviously, you know, with Touch Me, it's not exactly like, it's like, no, I'm going to show a natural, like normal tentacle sex scene, you know, just like that. The thing that we all know, you know, we've all experienced, you know. But I think for me, especially with my actors, like, you know, they were like, well, when it comes to nudity, you have to be very not cautious, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like collaborative with your actors, because the last thing I want to do is make the actors feel exploited. It's like, so you basically like, you know, you have an intimacy coordinator, you have everything. And when I was doing the sex scene, the first thing that my actors asked were like, well, what's it going to look like? So I very painstakingly stick figured, because I can't draw, but I went through the exact shot list that we were going to do so they would know. And I'd be like, and at the end of the day, if there's anything you don't like or don't want to show, we'll remove it from the movie. But the goal with the sex scene was like to be very, this is weird, but like a, you know, emotionally, you know, resonant tentacle sex scene, like not to be like this like crazy fucking whatever, but kind of like a beautiful like moment of euphoria where Joey gets to really like experience relief for the first time. And so that was like more important than everything else. I think the aesthetic choices are all kind of harken back to the 60s and 70s, you know, Japanese cinema that I homaged.
It really comes through that sort of relief sensation. It's super cool. How do you see the role of non-traditional relationships in horror or genre cinema in general?
Yes, because it's a throuple. No, I just, you know, I think like, this is just me because this is the kind of art that I create. I tell stories, queer stories about mental illness. So like I will always do that. And I will always, you know, tell, you know, kind of non-traditional, kind of not mainstream stories about relationships. And I think the more the better, because, you know, we've been introduced to like certain types of stories over and over and over again. And I'll continue to watch them because they're great. But like, I just, you know, but much like Gregor Raki and John Waters, like, you know, they, I think had such a, you know, and early too, right? You know, had a like a very powerful alt style and alt kind of exploration of relationships within the queer, you know, kind of space and like sex workers and all this kind of stuff. And I think that to me, you know, is also helpful twofold. One, for people to watch it and go, oh, these are people that I may not be interacting with on a daily basis, but I'm now aware of who they are. And two, just because I want to make queer people laugh and squirm and say ew and maybe, you know, like fart a little bit. I don't know. But like, you know, like I just the more the better, you know.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
What are, in your view, 3 genre films that our listeners specifically should definitively watch? Maybe as an explanation for you, we're sort of very independent, go into all sorts of low-budget horror, also do art house cinema, but it's sort of the people that explore the boundaries of the genre.
Yeah, I mean, you should definitely watch Nowhere by Greg Araki. That's, you know, obviously a great one. You should watch Female Prisoner. It's another Japanese movie, and actually one of my favorite Japanese horror movies is Kuroneko. And I'll add Onibaba. They're both, because it's the same director. And just if you're interested in seeing some of the stuff that inspired me for the movie.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we typically give drinking recommendations to our listeners in connection with the movies that we talk about.
Yes.
So if you were to give a drinking recommendation, it doesn't have to be alcohol, can be, for seeing Touch Me, what would it be?
Absinthe for sure. If you're so alcoholically inclined, and non-alcoholic. You know. Sugar-free lemonade.
Oh yeah, makes a lot of sense. Perfect. Thanks, man.
Whichever one,
super appreciate it.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to me about it. I really appreciate it.